Home ownership was supposed to mean safety, steadiness, freedom. But what if the largest debt in America is not federal, is not on Wall Street, and is not even on your house loan statement, but quietly attached to your home every single year? Behind rising property taxes sits a hidden money system most Americans never voted for, never approved, and can never fully pay off. Trillions in debt have been built into housing through high values and lasting tax duties, turning homes into lifetime moneymakers. This is not a housing problem, it is a debt trap. What makes this crisis so dangerous is not its size, it is its hidden nature. Most Americans believe their biggest housing duty is their house loan. They can see it, follow it, pay it down. But layered beneath that loan is another duty, one that never appears on closing papers, never gets shown, and never ends. This is debt that homeowners never approved, never talked about, and never truly agreed to, yet are legally forced to pay for life. Across the United States, local governments and school areas have given out trillions of dollars in long-term bonds using home property as the final support. These bonds are not tied to family pay growth, or money-making. They are tied to one thing only: checked property value. That single choice changes a tax into a lasting duty. In effect, homeowners become supporters for public debt they did not start. The size is huge. Independent studies now point to more than $5.1 trillion in open school-related bond duties nationwide. Much of it made with growing interest plans that go decades into the future. When layered onto high checks, this system has produced an estimated $23 trillion in overvalued home property. A figure that exists not because buyers paid it, but because taxing leaders need it to exist to keep the debt cycle going. This is where the false picture begins to break. A house loan has an endpoint. These duties do not. Even after a home is fully paid off, the debt remains built into the tax system, rising as checks rise. Ownership in the normal sense never truly arrives. The house may be yours in name, but the underlying money flow is already taken. And here's the key link forward. Once property values are no longer shows of market truth, but tools to support debt giving, value itself becomes used as a weapon. Checks stop measuring worth and start supporting taking. What looks like a normal tax bill is in truth a payment on duties that cannot be ended. This is not wrong information. It is design. Once lasting debt is attached to housing, the system needs a way to keep that debt payable. That way is value check. And this is where property pricing stops being a description and becomes planned. In a working market, price comes from deals. Buyers and sellers meet. Money is limited by pay, and value shows what people can pay. That idea falls when property values are no longer used to find worth, but to make borrowing ability. Across the country, check systems have quietly changed from recording market truth to meeting money goals. Value is no longer seen, it is given. Centered check frameworks now work with great freedom. Small percentage changes in checked value turn into large money sheet results. A 20% check increase across a city area does not show demand. It grows support. Multiply that across tens of millions of homes and suddenly trillions of dollars in extra debtability appear without a single dollar of new pay to support it. This is why property values have separated from pay. While normal family pay has grown roughly 2 to 3% each year over the past 10 years, checked property values in many places have risen 40%, 60%, even 100% over the same period. That difference is not by chance. Pay limits debt. Asset rise hides it. Once value check becomes a money tool, truth becomes a problem. Rules that once guided check control are lowered to ideas. Personal choice replaces comparisons. Models override deals and appeal processes are too full by design, forcing most families to accept numbers they cannot really fight. The result is system-wide. Higher values do not merely raise taxes. They support larger bond givings, longer end times, and more strong interest ideas. A home checked at $400,000 instead of $280,000 does not become more livable. It becomes more able to take from. The difference is not idea only. At a 2.5% working tax rate, that rise alone moves $3,000 per year per family forever. This is the key change point. When value check exists to serve debt rather than markets, price loses its base. Housing stops working as shelter or money put in and begins working as base for money planning. The system no longer asks what a property is worth. It asks what it must be worth to keep the machine working. And once value is planned instead of earned, the next result becomes unavoidable. Debt that grows faster than the economy meant to support it. Once value check is planned to grow support, the next step is automatic. Debt giving speeds up beyond any real ability to pay back. This is where the system stops pretending to last and becomes a machine made to move duties forward forever. City and school area bonds are no longer made around payback. They are made around lasting of the cycle. Over the past 2 decades, giving has changed toward long-time tools that put off main amount while allowing interest to grow. On paper, this creates short-term money help. In truth, it creates duties that math-wise outrun the tax base meant to support them. The numbers show the problem right away. More than $5.1 trillion in school-related bond debt now sits open nationwide. Large parts of this debt carry end times of 30, 40, even 50 years with interest costs that double or triple the original main amount over time. A bond given at $100 million can quietly become a $300 to $500 million duty before the first dollar of main amount is paid. This is not funding-based work. It is stacking duties forward. What makes this structure especially dangerous is its separation from money flow truth. Bond payments are not tied to student growth, making things, or family pay. They are tied to checks, numbers that can be raised far more easily than pay. As long as values can be moved upward, the look of being able to pay remains even as the underlying math falls. This creates a move-forward need. Old bonds are not paid down. They are changed, extended, or replaced with new givings supported by higher checked values. Debt does not go away. It changes form. Each cycle pushes payback further into the future while increasing total openness. The result is a money sheet that looks able to pay only as long as growth ideas remain not questioned. But growing interest does not talk. At just 4 to 5%, duties double roughly every 14 to 18 years. Meanwhile, normal family pay has not doubled once in that same period. That space is the deadly weakness. It means the system needs ever-rising values, just to stay standing, not to improve conditions, but to stop right-away failure. At this point, fall is no longer caused by bad handling or money slowdown. It is built into setup. The bond machine cannot be paid back because it was never made to be. It was made to continue until something forces it to stop. Once debt is made to move forward forever, only one thing decides whether the system lasts. Pay, not averages, not ideas, not asset prices, but the normal paycheck actually available to pay the duty. This is the bottom number the entire setup depends on, and it is the point where the math finally breaks. Normal family pay in the United States sits near $75,000 before taxes. After federal, state, payroll, healthcare, and basic living costs, the extra space is thin. That space has not really grown in over 10 years. Yet, the duties attached to housing, taxes, insurance, fees, and debt pass-throughs have grown without stop. When duties grow faster than pay, not able to pay is not a risk, it is a sure thing. This is why price rise stories miss the core failure. Rising prices explain stress, but they do not explain not possible. You cannot pay growing public debt with pay that grows 2 to 3% each year, while duties built into housing grow at 5 to 7% or more. Over time, the space widens until payment ability falls. No rule change closes that space. No better way fixes it. The result is a quiet pressing of family money sheets. A growing share of pay is moved toward duties that do not lower main amount and do not improve ownership place. This is how a system can look steady on paper while families slide toward not paying in real life. Today, estimates suggest over 1/3 of U.S. families are already working within a narrow space where a single problem, job loss, health cost, tax increase causes house loss risk or money failure openness. This also explains why rising property values fail to create safety. Higher checks increase needed payments without increasing pay. Rise becomes a duty grower, not a wealth maker. The more valuable the home becomes on paper, the more strongly money flow is taken from the family keeping it. At large size, this way removes choices from the economy. Spending slows, savings go away, work joining goes longer into life. The system makes up by leaning harder on the same pay base, speeding up the very breakdown it depends on to last. This is the unavoidable end. When debt growth is separated from pay growth, fall does not arrive through worry or rule mistake. It arrives through numbers. And once the bottom number fails, every setup built above it follows. Once pay becomes the limiting thing, the system answers by taking value not from pay, but from built-up assets. This is where taxation stops working as a public giving and begins working as a way of wealth taking. Property taxes are especially strong because they target not real wealth. They do not ask whether money exists. They think it must be found. As checks rise, taxes rise automatically, changing paper rise into needed payments. Unlike a house loan, these payments do not build ownership. They take it away. Every dollar paid lowers future safety without lowering any underlying duty. This is why the setup is so good. A family may believe it is gaining wealth as home values increase, yet at the same time loses ready money year after year. At a working rate of 2 to 3%, a $400,000 checked home quietly moves $8,000 to $12,000 each year away from the owner. Over 20 years, that totals $160,000 to $240,000 taken without changing title, improving ownership place, or shortening any debt time. The false picture lasts because the loss is slow. Wealth is not taken in one event. It is taken little by little. Unlike house loss, this process creates no news. Unlike price rises, it feels normal, but the result is the same. Lowered ownership and lasting need on pay streams that must never stop. This also explains why paying off the house no longer gives freedom. The normal promise of home ownership, safety after the loan ends, has been replaced with lasting duty. Ownership is not full, renewed each year through taxation. Miss payments long enough and the asset is taken back no matter house loan status. At large size, this changes housing into a money tool for debt pay, rather than a store of value for families. It locks families into longer working lives, stops savings, and forces money to stay not ready to use. The system does not need house losses to work. It only needs time. And once wealth taking becomes normal as taxation, the final stop goes away. Assets no longer protect families from debt. They become the support used against them. Once wealth is steadily taken from families, the question becomes unavoidable. Where does that money finally go? The answer explains why this system lasts even as its base goes away. Because the setup is made so that one group is protected from loss. Banks sit at the end of the chain. They write the bonds, make the end times, collect fees up front, and receive interest payments long before main amount is ever touched. Whether a bond does well or fails many years later is not important to the places that already got their return. Risk is moved outward. Payment is taken right away. This is why the system favors amount over lasting. Giving a new bond makes writing fees, advice fees, legal fees, and interest duties from day one. One large giving can produce millions in sure pay no matter. If the tax base can really support payback 20 or 30 years later, the reason is not payback, the reason is lasting. Importantly, banks are not open to family pay. They are open to assets and taxing power. As long as property remains legally taxable, money can be taken. If families feel pressure, taxes rise. If not paying increases, values change. The system does not need success. It needs force. This shows a much larger pattern. At the federal level, debt is given, money made, and moved forward. At the local level, bonds are given, supported by housing, and extended. Different sizes, same ways. In both cases, places receive payment first while the public takes long-term risk. Even when stress appears, banks stay protected. Bad loans are marked, changed, or moved. Losses are shared through public money sheets, higher taxes, or money value drop. The banking system does not need families to do well. It only needs duties to stay legally required. This explains the seeming difference. Trillions in open debt next to rising money place profits. The system is not broken from the view of those collecting fees and interest. It is working exactly as made. When a system lasts by moving debt instead of ending it, time becomes the enemy. Every extension pushes risk forward, pressing it into one moment where changing is no longer a choice. That moment is now coming, and it has a time range. Between 2026 and 2028, trillions of dollars in city and school-related bonds reach end times or change windows. These are not small changes. They are large-sized changing events happening in a setting very different from the one in which the debt was made. Interest rates are higher, ready money is tighter, and the tax base supporting the duties is already tight. The problem is not just higher rates. It is having buyers. Changing assumes willing buyers. But buyers need trust that money flows can pay debt without constant rise. That trust is going away. When new bonds must be given at 5 to 7% instead of 2 to 3%, yearly paying costs grow fast. A debt setup that barely worked under zero-rate conditions becomes right away not workable. This is where the moving forward false picture breaks. Governments do not pay off old bonds. They replace them. But replacement needs demand. And demand falls when payback depends on families already working at the edge of able to pay. At large size, changing becomes a forced event rather than a normal one. Ready money dries up fast in this setting. Markets do not need not paying to pull back. They only need not sure. As changing windows close, givers face impossible choices. Raise taxes and to slow down, cut services tied to bond rules, or accept lower ratings that further increase borrowing costs. Each choice speeds up stress rather than helping it. This is why the timeline matters. The changing wall is not idea only. It is number-based. Debt given many years ago thought lasting growth in steady rates. Neither condition exists anymore. Once changing stops, the system cannot wait or talk again quietly. It breaks in order. And when that break happens, attention moves upward because when local debt can no longer move forward, pressure moves to the only place large enough to take the shock. When changing fails, the answer always looks the same. Help. Markets freeze, givers worry, and pressure shifts to the only money sheet large enough to take the shock. That is where money leaders enter. Not as a fix, but as a weight that adds to the damage. Making money does not remove debt. It moves it. When central banks grow money sheets to steady markets, they replace clear not paying with hidden losses carried by money holders. The duty does not go away. It is spread again through lowered buying power. What cannot be paid directly is paid not directly over time by everyone using the money. The size makes this unavoidable. Taking even a part of local and place duties means putting trillions of dollars into a system already full of ready money. That money does not rebuild pay. It does not increase making things. It fights for the same goods, services, and assets, pushing prices higher while pay stays behind. This is the deadly not match. The original problem was that pay could not pay the debt. Money growth does nothing to fix that bottom number. Instead, it raises the costs that families must go through. Taxes, insurance, power, and needs all reprice upward as new money moves. The debt weight becomes easier for places to carry and harder for the public to last. There is also a trust cost. Markets understand the difference between ready money and able to pay. Once help becomes lasting, trust goes away. Bond buyers ask higher returns. Money holders look for other choices. Each round of money support needs a larger answer to get a smaller effect. This is not help, it is lowering return. History is clear on this point. When asset-supported duties are money made at large size, the result is not steady. It is money value drop. The loss is small at first, then sudden. Buying power does not go down the same. It falls where need is highest. This is why making money speeds up the crisis instead of holding it. It protects money sheets while emptying the money base that supports them. And once trust in the unit of account becomes weaker, the problem grows beyond debt markets completely into money flows, goods, and the world money order itself. As trust in money help goes away, money begins to speak more truly than leaders ever will. Money moves first, reasons come later. And right now, those movements are showing a sign that cannot be missed. Central banks are building hard assets at a speed not seen in many years. Gold buying has risen to over 1,000 metric tons each year, a level usually linked with system stress, not normal reserve handling. This is not guessing. It is protection. When places responsible for money steady begin protecting against their own product, the message is clear. At the same time, money is turning away from long-time paper promises. Government bonds that once held world money places are being questioned. Returns rise not because growth is speeding up, but because trust is going away. Money putters are asking pay for risk that was before thought to be small. That change alone raises borrowing costs across every layer of the system. Goods tell the same story. Silver, platinum, and work metals are seeing new demand not driven by using but by keeping. These are not return assets. They are leave assets. Money does not run into hard stores of value when steady is expected. It does so when value drop becomes the base idea. This is no longer limited to one country. Trade groups are openly talking about settling ways that lower need on money reserves. Money plans once considered idea only are being tried in real time. The world money system is quietly getting ready for a world where trust in unlimited giving no longer exists. What matters most is time. These changes are happening before the full debt end becomes clear. Markets are changing place ahead of proof, not after. That tells you hope has already turned into sure belief. The warning is clear. When the world system begins pricing and protection rather than growth, the problem has moved beyond rule control. And once money stops believing in paper sure things, the final choice is no longer money. It becomes setup. When money no longer trusts promises and help no longer brings back trust, the system reaches its final choice point. There are only two ways forward, and weight has already removed the false picture of a third. Change needs admitting the size of the damage. Trillions in bill duties must be separated, limited, and removed from families that cannot pay them. Taxation must connect again to pay and using, not high asset values. Places that made not payable duties must take loss instead of moving it. This way is painful, public, and unavoidable, but it is able to last. The other way is break. Debt continues to move until changing fails completely. Money takes the shock. Buying power falls. Social steady goes away as duties rise while real pay falls. History shows this result costs far more than change ever would. This crisis will not fix quietly. It will be settled by setup or by force.